When I think about sexual assault on college campuses, I think of bystanders.
I would define it as the moment when there is no consent given during any sexual encounter.
That sexual assault is essentially any sort of interaction, I guess it could be like a sexual interaction or like romantic interaction where it's not consensual.
Sexual assault is any unwanted sexual contact without informed consent.
Sexual assault to me is when a person makes you do something that you don't want to, especially like sexually, or they make you just feel really uncomfortable, like if they say something to you about it, or if they even like physically touch you.
So basically the way that sexual assault is defined is under this umbrella of sexual misconduct, and so that includes stalking, that includes rape, that includes verbal harassment, so catcalling or threatening language.
I felt like the conversation, in my opinion, I didn't really see very much of the conversation taking place.
Before I got to campus, I never thought, like that would happen to me or it would happen to someone I know, but unfortunately it does.
I think this is such a big issue for a college campus is because it's something that's really difficult to talk about.
You just know over the nation there is a huge issue with sexual assaults, especially on college campuses, and it's typically a taboo subject.
There are these pieces of kind of our culture that do perpetuate these power relationships that do objectify bodies and do objectify people that really play into this whole rape culture.
I think it's a really big issue, especially walking around. You're in a city, there are a lot of people here, and especially being just in college, you don't know about 90% of the people who you interact with, so you don't really know their intentions when you meet them, what they want to do, if it's just a friendly interaction or if there are other intentions or motives.
There are a lot of programs that focus on just stopping sexual assault in general, but there are not enough bystander programs, I think, available for people to utilize, and that's very important because if there are more bystanders and people that are aware of this happening, then less incidents of assault will occur.
Really tough to talk about it, however it is important to really address that rape culture that we have in the United States, because we always are constantly telling girls you have to be careful not to get raped when we should really be telling guys just not to rape. And so with that, we really want to just raise awareness about that, and typically it's just a conversation that people don't want to have, but I feel like it's vital in order to prevent this from happening to start that conversation, to talk about it with people.
People don't necessarily like to talk about. That's something that I think people get kind of shy about talking about, but we want to make it an open conversation because once we start talking about it, I think that people will have an easier time stepping in when they see something wrong going on.
It's something that's very difficult to talk about. It's very personal. Reporting sexual assault or sexual misconduct is something that is very difficult. And so just by being able to talk about it, to see that people do care.
You don't want, so nobody ever wants to be that person to kind of stop and be like, hey, I want to break you guys up, but it's essential. It's so important that you do.
It's been important to identify, the fact that, catcalling, these microaggressions do have major psychological impacts. I speak from experience when I say I want to go running on campus and I'll be inundated with, all of these comments that really objectify my body or, my activities that I'm doing, and that's something that I take personally.
It's horrible when it happens, and it's horrible when, there's so much emotional damage that can come after something like that. So I think it's really important that we talk about these issues at Marquette on a college campus so that we can not only prevent it, but also know how to deal with it, know how to appropriately and maturely talk about it.
And it's important that you be that person to help someone out when you feel like they're making a wrong decision, even if it doesn't seem like that.
As easy as saying hey, let's leave, or hey, I see that going on, let's just step on in. It doesn't have to be a big, huge thing. It can be saying, hey, let's go get some doghouse, or hey, I think you've had too much, let's just go home.
It's a tough conversation to have, but it's a conversation we need to have. It's so important. Honestly, I have two sisters, and imagining that happened to them is just terrifying and absolutely horrific.
So I think the awareness is the most important thing, and that's one thing that's really made me feel passionate about it, because I've had some friends that have been affected by sexual assault and that kind of stuff, and it's really important to me that this issue is brought to the forefront so that people know that it actually is a problem, and it's not something that's not existent, not only at Marquette, but college campuses everywhere.
We need to talk about things like this. As uncomfortable as it is at the beginning, it really pays off in the end, and it's our hope and my hope that in a couple of years we won't have to have boards like this, because it won't be an issue anymore.
As corny as this might sound, the campaign has the perfect title. It's always on us to be able to help make the difference. So really, it's just so important that you become aware of just the culture that we have, and it's time to take really a stance against sexual assault.